Outspoken Silent One. This is about an article I came across today online. Before I get going into it, I want to say thanks for watching. Enjoy it. Subscribe. Want to watch more? I'm definitely putting more out there. If you think someone might enjoy it, share it. If you think it's valid points or you think they need to see it, share it. And I want to keep making better videos, and I want to keep being able to make better and better videos for people to watch. So if you have any recommendations or criticism, put it in comments. I'll read them and see what's going on, what I can change for it. But back to what this video is about. It's a thing going on over in California from 2 Democratic senators, and I don't know the senators' reputations at all. I don't know how much influence and everything they have over there to really say this is going to happen. I don't know this site, so I don't know how legitimate this article is, but it's something that I came across, and it caught my attention when I read it. So, and these 2 Democrats, like I said, I don't know who they are, and I don't know how much pull and mean is it, how much influence they'll have over there. But the way it is about a reparation bill that's going on, and when it comes to reparations, I don't agree with it, because it's all going back to the white slavery, or whites enslaving blacks from 150 plus years ago, and they're wanting now people today to pay, which I do not agree with. Is it happened way before we were ever around. And there's not a person out on this planet that lived 150 plus years ago. It don't matter. And it's kind of this messed up story, but it goes on. It's headlined on the table: California could pay reparations to all black people, as Democratic says they'd be billionaires if they got what was promised. Now, this is the 2 senators that they're talking, or that's in it, is Senator Steve Bradford and Holly Mitchell. Like I said, I don't know anything about these senators, so I can't say, oh yeah, I'd be afraid of this. It hasn't started yet, so right now it's not an issue for the everyday person. I'm going to go, because it's not a real long article, I'm just going to read it off, or read the article, and then I'll just go back over parts that I really wanted to address. So, starting off, the California lawmakers want to pay reparations to all African Americans, particularly the descendants of slaves. A Democrat senator who supports the initiative said if freed slaves had gotten what was promised, they'd all be billionaires. And this is being said from Senator Bradford. If the 40 acres and a mule was promised to free slaves were delivered to the descendants of those slaves today, we would all be billionaires. Democrat Senator Bradford said, expressing support for the AB 3121 bill, which aims to develop reparation proposals. I hear far too many people say, well, I didn't own slaves, that was so long ago. For him and he responds, well, you inherit wealth, you can inherit the debt that you owe to African Americans. California lawmakers are now setting up a task force to study and make recommendations for reparations to African Americans, particularly the descendants of slaves, the AP reported. The 9-member commission would conduct a study on the impact of slavery in California and make recommendations by 2023 on a form of compensation, how it should be awarded, and who should qualify for it. In the last 2 years, in other states, they've done it. Texas, New York, and Vermont both have considered similar legislation. It is said reparations could take the form of cash, housing assistance, lower tuition, forgiving student loans, job training, or community investments. Now, This is coming from Senator Holly Mitchell. African Americans can continue to debilitating economic, educational, and health hardships based on continued discrimination, as the bill says. She goes on to say is chattel slavery, I'm not sure the word is chattel. I'm reading it as chattel. Slavery in both California and across the nation birthed a legacy of racial harm and inequity that continues to impact the conditions of black life in California. She cited proportionate homelessness, unemployment, involvement in criminal justice systems, lower academic performances, and higher risk during the coronavirus pandemic. The panel, which would start meeting no later than June 2021, could also measure the return to the Assembly for a final vote before lawmakers adjourn for the year on Monday, although Assembly members overwhelmingly already approved an earlier version of the bill. And going off that, there's the things I have issues with is, and I don't agree with reparations whatsoever. I don't believe that we should have to even pay. We should have to pay for something that our ancestors might have done 150 years ago. We didn't do it personally. I don't feel we should have to pay it. Because when the senator says that, when he went on to say in his first part of his quote about the 40 acres and mule, that they would all be billionaires. Way I assume, I could be wrong, this is everything the way I'm seeing it, the way I'm responding and taking it, and what my thoughts on it were. When he says the 40 acres and a mule that was promised, that they'd actually gotten it, they'd be billionaires. What I'm seeing that as is they're saying that, or he's saying that if they were given that, they could have built an empire for themselves. The family could have really set up to follow for future generations to come, and they would have built an empire or a fortune that could be worth billions. Which I can't say that's happened, because look at how many people have owned so much land, even just 40 acres, and this is how it turns out. Then he says a little bit later, I fear far too many people say, well, I don't own slaves. Okay, I'll give him this. He has said something factual. He didn't own slaves. Or people saying that, well, I didn't own slaves, I shouldn't have to pay. Which I wholeheartedly agree with, because I say the same thing. I have said this, and I've heard other people say it, that they don't own slaves, they shouldn't have to do it. Because then he goes on to say, well, you can inherit wealth, then you can inherit the debt you owe to African Americans. That line right there just really gets me even more, because what he's saying is, yeah, you might be able to inherit a fortune from your parents or from someone in your family, but it also goes the same way where if someone in your family has a major debt issue in, say, IRS or anything else, the next person in line for it just get hit with the debt. And to me, that's not right. I've never liked the idea of it. I don't think it should ever happen that way. I can't say personally that I had slaves doing things, but I can't say I didn't have slaves, or my ancestors had slaves. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. I haven't looked that far back in my heritage. When he says that, it bugs me, because that's the way I see it. Then they go on to, then there's the part where they say, well, we've been suffering for this long, this is what we're going through, and this is the problems we've been having, saying that it's like the coronavirus is putting them at higher risk, and that's not a health issue is not passed on through nationality to nationality to be part of something. An illness doesn't say, well, because a person is white or a person is black, they are going to get a certain illness or not. I don't know. I haven't seen any statistics on the coronavirus. I don't know if blacks are more susceptible, are more likely to get it or not. I haven't really looked into. Because I never considered it. I had heard it, but I never considered it. And at the time when I first heard it, I saw no proof. Then they've been saying that, well, now we can, what they'll get paid for the reparation is that they can get cash, they can get assisted living, they can get rid of the student loans if they qualify, because they're going to investigate it. But if they investigate it and determine, well, blacks should get it, and certain blacks will get it, does it mean that certain blacks will get it? But when they say all, when they capitalize it, the word all blacks get it, not every one of them was affected. So even then, people are getting something they didn't earn or because they had no part of. But going on the flip side of that, it can go the same way as what about the people that weren't here in the country when slavery ended? Is that they came after all this. They came, their ancestors came 100 years later, before. And are they going to have to pay? It's kind of weird, because the way I keep thinking comes across to me, just me personally, and I don't know other, because there's a few others out there that I've talked with that feel the same way. That the way all this is going from all summer with the social injustice and everything, is that it's being made out that blacks are the only ones that's ever been through slavery, and there's saying it's the time of back when white slavery were blacks, and it's that they're forgetting they're acting like they were the first and only, and it's the only time that's ever happened, which we all know that didn't happen. Going back, it's one of the oldest thing in human history is owning another person for slavery, which doesn't, and there's records everywhere for it. I mean, even the Egyptians and the Greeks and Romans takes it back even to BC. And so there's even, I mean, it's even known that that's what had happened. So, but I see it as that, well, they say, well, it's this. I say, well, look at the Romans. They owned slaves, and they made a spectacle of it. In the Colosseum, they owned the slaves and made them fight for their lives, killing each other, just for the entertainment of the city and the emperor. And that's how that was going on over there. And I said, we never did that. Right? I can't say we never did that, because I'm not even sure. Right? I've heard some pretty weird things with slavery that could be pretty serious. And then she goes on to say, well, what can be paid as cash or anything else is going off the student loans. No, where I have issue with that statement is that there already are so many things that blacks have and that are given to them and offered to them that even white people don't have. They have special scholarships that whites or blacks can get that whites can't, and they have through colleges and universities. Then they have award shows. They have, I mean, even Black History Month. I mean, if whites had a White History Month, it would go over huge. I mean, people would throw a fit about it. But we don't do that. And have an award show, it's just an all-black award show. And people will say, well, the Oscars, they're an all-white award show. It kind of proved, or it can kind of prove that wrong, because there are blacks that have gotten the Oscars. And
universities and scholarships, they are given to them. She says, well, the health issues, and then they're not there's less of a mind, or there's less blacks in law enforcement to be able to do something than whites. So, well, there also is the fact that look at the number out there. Is that look at the numbers for the percentage of how many blacks live in the country. That's going to change the number entirely. There's not as many blacks in America as whites. That's going to take effect the other way. So I don't agree with the reparation whatsoever. We should not have to pay for something our ancestors did 150 plus years ago. When you personally are not affected by it, it bugs me, and it should not happen. So we'll see what happens with this bill and this legislation, if it gets passed or not. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I hope, because to me, I see it in a way as, what about the people that didn't live here? Well, what's going to happen with them? And it's going to backfire. In my mind, I see it that it's going to hit on different levels of different things, where it's going to hurt if it doesn't get passed and these senators go up for it again. It's going to hurt their chances, because there's going to be a lot of people that are against it, and they don't want it to be put forth. Then, on another level, the census of everybody over in California. How many I see it also going bad in a way where it's going to affect who lives there. They're going to say, well, I don't want to live in a state and have to pay for something I did not do. And they'll just move out. They'll move to another state. And it would drop how many people actually live in that state. They won't agree with it. If they didn't have any part of it, they're not going to pay it. That's what I see personally, and what's going to happen. So if they do pass it, and me personally, I don't want to see it pass. I don't like it. I don't like the idea of it. And what are they going to do on how it goes for other races? Is that how are other races going to have part in it? What are they going to do? We don't know. But because it doesn't mention anything like that, because the way it's going, the way it is even worded, that all blacks are going to get it. It doesn't matter if their ancestry was linked to the slavery, if their ancestors were enslaved or not. But then it doesn't. But then there's also going to be, on the flip side of it, well, there's going to be white people that have to pay just because they're white. We're going to have to pay extra or give something extra because of our skin color. But Senator Mitchell had said, well, it brought on racism to no end in this country. I'm sorry, what you're doing is causing the racism, because you're doing it a way that's going to cause problems. Racism is an issue, yes. I know it's out there in this country, it does happen, but it does not. It's because how it's brought out and what it's being called for. Because we have, especially right now, it's happened with me. I've had it happen quite a few times. I'll just be called racist because of a comment that I say. I've seen where I just flat out getting confused, where we're seeing white Antifa, Black Lives Matter people, white women, white men, yelling at other whites, calling them racist, which isn't right. And I don't like it at all. And it's not fair in my mind. It's a fairness thing. Is that they want treated equally. Well, we want to be treated equally too. We don't want to get suckered into having told we have to do something that we had no part in doing. And I hope everyone can kind of see this is what this article is. And maybe it's something that could really, people could argue or throw really good arguments for to help with anybody that's over in California help them, or that it does not happen, and where they get screwed over and they have to be doing what they to do something they didn't have any part of, and they have to help out. So that's the end of it. What I had to say and my thoughts on it. Reparations bad. I don't want to see it. I don't agree with what these senators are saying, because they're also they're pushing racism, and the racism in this country right now, and I've had it where people I've spoken with, people I've seen online, and it's a variety of age groups. It doesn't matter what age group they were in. Is even I've noticed on myself that the racism is really going out, because we have so much of it getting thrown out there that it's causing people to sit there and say, I've never been racist. I've never had a single thought of racism towards somebody, but now I'm having it. Because some of the things they want are, the demands are constantly changing. We want this, we want this, we want this. And it's getting to the point where people are sitting there and you're doing it for a color, for the skin color, not because of a certain reason. It's just because their skin color. And that's just causing the racism. And of course, media, they're putting it out there. Why are we doing this? Why does the media have to put it out there when they say a black man was shot by a white cop? That makes headline news. It gets splattered all over the TV. But then we have a white woman that might get shot, even if it was from a white man, a black. If it doesn't matter if it's a white person, black person, Asian, anything. It's not mentioned. There's no word of race in it. So the only time they bring up race is when it's a black person. I can say I've seen one article. It was from Fox. It was the local Fox news for my area. They said they're sitting there talking about the Jacob Blake, and every time they did something, for every picture, every time they mentioned his name, they would put comma, a black man, comma. And they made sure after every time his name was mentioned, which it was about 4 or 5, 6 times in the article itself, they put a black man. So I'm saying is that all this stuff going on, is this just creating more racism? And if the media could finally stop saying, well, it's a black person, it's a white person, and we're seeing it in news constantly. I went and said this in this article and it was an article about the Jake Blake incident. It was constant, saying, making sure that they stress the point: Jacob Black was a black man, or I'm sorry, Jacob Blake was a black man, and that is what's actually causing the racism throughout the country, because it's really throwing the black community into an uproar. Is that, well, it's because we're black is what's happening, and is that I don't believe it's that. I believe it's on a different level of something that is what's going on. I've been called a racist just by other whites because of a statement that I made, and it goes over bad for them. And being called racist by somebody of the same race is ludicrous to me. I mean, it is just one of the dumbest things you could ever do. And if media would stop saying skin color, it would change the outcome of a lot of this stuff that's happened now. And I don't think this bill being passed is going to help. I believe it is honestly going to hurt and cause more racism than they think it might actually be helping. I know there are people out there that said they will pay for it. They will do it. I don't see it. To me, I just call those, they're not right. There's something wrong with them where they should be thinking this, and I've never liked it. And because they say Black Lives Matter, is the only time all lives matter is when Black Lives matter. That's not the case. We all seen all these cases We've seen this all summer. Black Lives Matter, but when black people are killed by other blacks or something like that, it's not brought up. So I'm gonna leave it at this. I'm not sure what my next video will be about, but it will be coming here in a bit. I'm trying to get one out at least once a day. It's not happening every day, but I'm trying to get them out one or two a day at least to help bring out things. Like I said, if you like what you're seeing, subscribe. If you don't, I'm sorry. So maybe you can give me some suggestions on what might get you to subscribe and want to see what more of something. Share as much as you can to help me out. Thanks.